Welcome, everyone. This is our final workshop in the series of understanding recreational cannabis or adult use cannabis. And it's just our listening session for the community to come in and talk, ask questions. I'm joined by Councilor Stein and Councilor Lyons.
Happy to be here.
Do we have any questions from the community? No? We don't have any from online either. I don't believe anybody's waiting.
Oh, just check. And we'll wait 5 minutes and see if anyone joins.
All right.
If nobody does, I would propose just a kind of succinct recap of where we are. If it's going to be recorded, we can use that as a
Yeah,
sort of a PR. Here's what we know so far.
feel free.
If you do have some questions, maybe we just answer them.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. What do we know so far?
John, did you bring a really nice flow spreadsheet?
It's it's somewhere in there. Well, I could share what Matt wrote up, which I haven't seen the edited version, but there probably weren't too many changes. Probably just legal stuff. I imagine what you put in there. It's just a little one pager on if it passes and if it does not pass, and what does that mean?
Well, as the council discussed it at all, if it passes, I mean, Matt seemed to present some information at one or a couple of meetings that the council is kind of looking at maybe no more than 4
Yeah,
locations. I mean, has the council discussed it, or is this just kind of a couple council members saying ain't had it?
We discussed it when we put it on the referendum, but we didn't specify anything, so nothing that would be binding, but there did seem to be a consensus. So we backed it off from, I think one of my original proposals was we should consider all the different options and, testing facilities are needed in the state, et cetera, and the council was like, let's do one thing at a time, adult use first, and everybody kind of said, we should limit it, there should be not too many, maybe more than one, so that there would be, price competition and that sort of thing. And then from the first working group meeting where police chief and fire chief were there, they both were sort of pushing for somewhere in the 2 to 3 to 4 range, certainly under 5 was their recommendation. And I don't think there was any pushback against those suggestions. So.
yeah, I think, everything John said, and, the conversation with the council so far has been, let's let the citizens tell us whether or not they want this. And so that's why, because we have the authority, we want to do it ourselves. And if it does pass, then obviously the process is it goes through staff, in Matt and code and everyone, fire, police will be consulted, and kind of, the way you can really regulate cannabis under Maine law however you want. You can regulate how many, where, and, we can impose more, even further restrictions than the state does if we wanted to, on things like hours of operation. And, the state has certain minimum requirements and limitations, not within a certain proximity of schools or churches or, other kind of childcare facilities. I know in our discussions that, the mill mall would not make sense for a cannabis shop because you're literally in the middle of, all our schools. But, thinking about commercial areas that could make sense, High Street, towards, that's where we have the dispensaries already up there. There's a lot of commercial space on High Street and up Route 1 potentially. Again, this is all kind of just like initial thoughts, but the, finding, places that make sense as far as, kind of, obviously you need the utilities and all that and commercial space, but High Street, those areas seem to make a lot of sense. And we can limit how many. I don't think anyone on the council wants to just turn every commercial space into a cannabis store. It probably makes sense to go, kind of take a conservative approach to it. How many would we permit, and To John's point, though, you want to have enough where there's healthy competition. So you're not just giving a monopoly on one business. But yeah, and then I think it's the idea of if it does pass, the city works to enact ordinances to allow for the adult use stores, and then seeing how that goes. If we think it's going fine and there's no real issues, then I think the council at that point would have the discretion if it did want to consider other business, the cultivation facilities. And you're starting to see a lot of, one thing that we've seen with the cannabis industry is that they are using a commercial space that has kind of gone, a lot of like any empty box stores or any kind of large retail space that has closed. They've turned into, either cultivation facilities or the storefronts. They also have the processing, this manufacturing facilities where they take the cannabis plant product, flower, and turn it into the various, products for the edibles, right? The
Gummies.
tinctures and all that, gummies and all. And then ultimately, it all is sold at the retail store. So it's the seed to sale, I think they call it, and it's all tracked, and it's all regulated by the state. So anyways, that's kind of, we're taking that first step. If the vote is no, then that's pretty clear, like, all right, we'll leave it alone. Another council in the future could decide to pick it back up, but I think wouldn't be for a while. I mean, we'd have a pretty clear, this is not what the community wants.
Well, no, I understand. I think John may have been at one meeting, I asked this, that the vote will determine whether it goes or not. I mean, it's not an advisory vote, right? If it passes, the city goes through the process of setting up the rules and regulations for
Yes.
stores. If it doesn't pass,
We're done.
okay, try it again in a couple of years or.
Yeah, or maybe never, but.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna, if people vote yes and we say, well, we don't feel like it, I mean, we can't bind the future council, right? There's 2 seats up. We don't know, and we really don't, but I think the council would proceed with, okay, this is what the people wanted. And I can't speak for people that are on the council now, but that's what I would anticipate.
Matt's write-up was, if it passes, the council would vote then to accept the election results and install a 6-month moratorium on any adult use cannabis, so there wouldn't be a period where people could just say, we're free, let's make the store.
Well, I guess I would ask, I mean, that process that you talked about, I mean, is that something that the council agreed to? Where, okay, this is gonna be, if it passes, the council's gonna say, okay, start doing it. Or like you say, with a change of 2 council members possibly, that new council members, even if the vote passes, say, no, I'm not voting for that.
I think regardless of the makeup of the council, the council will advance it as Matt's outlined.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think the 5 that are not for re-election, I think got 5 votes there.
Yeah, I think the wording is specific enough, that people are voting that the city shall authorize the operation, so it would be, equal to the council not accepting any election results. It would be sort of.
Yeah, so, if it passes, it will become legalized, and the question is when and in what capacity, and then that's where the planning board, staff, public input will be involved, and ultimately the council will approve any ordinances that was regulated, that, work its way through.
Yeah. I mean, I think of course, if it passes, then staff's gonna work on it, and at some point comes to the planning board. I don't know if you're anticipating planning board and council getting together in that process.
I think that makes sense, at least in, I don't know.
Kind of give us your thoughts. I mean, the planning board, these guys, staff meets with the applicants before the TRT and gives us you know, a synopsis of what happened. But I'm not necessarily, I don't, that's a good idea, but I'd rather, you know, hear directly from police chief, fire chief, not just read it on a piece of paper.
Sure.
No, I think it would make a lot of sense to have a special planning board
Yeah.
meeting just for the cannabis ordinance where city council,
That
fire,
working group that's already.
Yeah.
the groups,
The
the
workshop,
working group.
yeah.
Kind of come and we talk about it and say, what we're thinking, what we'd like to see.
Yeah.
No, and then obviously we want the expertise of the planning board as far as how does this work is,
Because
zoning
obviously,
and
I mean,
land
a
use.
big part of it is, you know, how do you select? You know, if, let's say, the council says, we want 5, no more than 5, and you get 20 applicants, you know, what's the scoring process? Who's, you know,
That's a great question.
who comes up with a scoring process? Because you read any place that, you know, awards these licenses, and you can pretty much guarantee somebody's gonna appeal it.
Mhm.
You know, oh, that wasn't fair, you know, so, I mean, there's gotta be a pretty good set of guidelines as to, here's how we're scoring it.
Yeah, well, I think we have the benefit of a number of municipalities have gone
Yeah,
through
it's
this
done, yeah.
process, so, and we have, good city staff that can, planner and code that can reach out to these towns and be like, hey, how'd it go in Portland? How did it go in Brewer, right? Start thinking about municipalities that are of a similar size and kind of a service center like us.
I would think too, I mean, would MMA be a,
Oh, they're all over it. They've got a ton of materials.
And there's
Yeah.
the main, the OC
Office of Marijuana Policy.
policy, yeah.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, the
cannabis
cannabis
policy,
OCP.
yeah.
They have a ton of resources
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so yeah, we're not the first
Yeah,
people
right.
here blazing a trail, no pun intended. That was an unintentional
There are just
pun.
so many good puns.
Oh, cannabis puns, yeah. Really stoked.
because you gotta have to think about, you know, what, you know, how the state regulates it, but how will Ellsworth regulate it?
Exactly, yeah, we do, and that's the law, is designed, it's very focused on home rule authority. So one, we have to opt in, right? So when it first was passed, it was opt out, where it was, the presumption is it was permitted. And then in each municipality could vote to opt out, to not allow it. And then they went through the
Did
massive,
we opt out?
I think Ellsworth
We must
did.
have.
Yeah, a lot, it was a huge
would just be
wave
here.
of opting out, and then they changed, I think it was 2019, they amended the law to opt in. So then the status quo was it's not permitted unless, the legislative body opts in, through a vote. And again, the council could have done it at any point, but now we're saying, let's see, what the folks
Mhm.
want. I think it was a very close vote when it was legalized overall in the state.
Yeah.
I don't know how
That was a while
Ellsworth
ago.
voted.
Ellsworth was, voted it down in this, at least this population did.
When was
Not by a
that?
huge amount, 2017?
17, yeah.
Just as you're gonna think of
What,
this
I
long
feel like it
ago,
was
then.
longer ago
Yeah.
than that.
That's what
I think it
We've
was-
only had medical marijuana
That's
since
been
2017.
No, that was adult use or recreational. No, medical marijuana has been a name since like the
Oh,
early
I was gonna
2000s.
say, I thought that was
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
you're
was-
saying the last time we
Yeah,
voted to
but
put it
the
off.
wording was different enough. It was in the state and recreational everywhere, and
Yeah.
it.
I also think like, things
And
are,
times have changed.
times are just really different, yeah.
Yeah, I think if people are, it's not, you can drive up up and down 1A, right? And there's cannabis shops, all over the place. Go up to Bangor Brewer and again, that's why the first meeting we had was talking to police and fire, saying like, what do you guys think? And they're like, well, we've reached out to these communities that have these businesses and
It's not a big
it's
deal.
not a big
They had
deal.
no-
Yeah.
I mean, they had some thoughts, but really the only thing that was brought up was the fire chief brought up. Some of the manufacturing facilities use butane extraction, and that can be fire hazards, and they would have to figure out how to do that. But
Yeah,
aside from that, which we're not even talking about on this referendum anyway.
Yeah.
They were like, we don't see any reason why not to, so
yeah.
it was heartening.
So, yeah, things, so once we heard that, we're like, okay, then it's, you know, more, of, let's see, you know, if the public safety's okay with it, and you know, we'll see what the citizens have to say. And if it's a yes, then we'll find a way to regulate it, you know, as well as we can, but ultimately, then these businesses will open and, you know, we'll see how it goes, and if doesn't go well, we have the authority to say, this was a mistake, you know, and we can change that, so.
So can you then just discontinue it?
Yeah, there'd probably be some grandfather, you know, some of the businesses might argue, hey, we can stay, but like, you know, if it doesn't go well, we don't have to expand it, we don't have to allow for, further, you know, other businesses. I would.
But would you, I mean, we're just doing retail and didn't want to go any further than that. You're saying you could, then, if it didn't go well, because okay, you guys gotta close shop, I think.
No, I think, yeah, I think what would happen though is we'd just say, okay, we're not gonna issue any new licenses, and as soon as this business stops operating, you know, it's gone.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's kind of like, that's kind of like the business on Main Street here, the Boss Lady Genetics or.
That's right.
So if they're a grandfather, because there was this weird.
Yeah.
But they're only medical now.
They're only medical, but if they were to stop operating,
Mhm.
you couldn't then open a new medical store there.
We
They're,
don't have an ordinance for it.
yeah, they're grandfathered in, so they're just, but as soon as they would stop operating, there would be no new license. So I would imagine that's what would be the situation here. Get too far into that, but.
So some of Matt's tenants he put on this were the planning board would specify zones within the city, establish setbacks from and abutting property setbacks and other setbacks from non-compatible uses like schools, daycares, etc. If we wanted to expand them beyond the state's requirement. Limits on hours of operation, limits on advertising, capping number of total stores allowed, and then the licensing requirements of the city, which that would include things like permitting fees, which I think we have a huge amount of leeway on for the state, we can say. And some towns in Maine do charge massive amounts of permitting fees, yearly fees. Which could, you know, if it's high enough, we don't want it to be prohibitive, but it could certainly limit the number of applications or just ensure we're getting, you know, valued for this thing that we're offering. Another thing that was floated, I think by Charlie was we could set really specific zoning and really require that people move into
Empty.
buildings, empty, yeah, like not best use buildings, so that we would put those back on the tax roll, require that they improve them to a certain level to make them look nicer, facade requirements, so that these things are gonna be nice, they're gonna put value back into the buildings and to the tax roll. So all those might limit the total number of applications.
Yeah, and there's already, again, the nice thing too is about not being first here is there are a number of, it's from what I can tell, there's a number of businesses in Maine that cannabis businesses that have multiple locations, and they've been doing this for a few years now, so it's not, you know, it's kind of a already established companies may be drawn to, you know, expanding into Ellsworth, so to speak. But they're all Maine-based companies. Which is great.
And we should hear from them as well about, you know, what's a reasonable fee, like how much can you spend on a fee without your business succeeding here?
And I would imagine if it does pass and we have these meetings about what are these ordinances, that I would hope some of these businesses, if they're interested, in coming to Ellsworth, come and talk about their experiences. See if we can get input from them as well as others.
I just wonder about, so it was one of Charlie's suggestions. You know, if you made it too difficult for somebody, like, okay, you gotta take a vacant storefront, spend a godly amount of money to fix it up, make it real pretty. But we don't do that for any other type of business. You know, I don't, seems like you're setting up
Do we- Are
roadblocks.
there rules for liquor stores? Because to me, that would be the equivalent thing. How do we decide where those?
I don't think for, as far as fixing up a building or anything like that, yeah, I mean,
Do we have a
yeah, I
set-
kind of compared it saying, you know, yeah.
Well, these are all, this is the conversations I would expect we'd have if it passes, right? You know, it's all kind of theoretical at this point, but yeah, I think to your point, John, right, like, if we're gonna permit it, we don't, but then make it so hard that no one can actually,
Right.
that's not what, if people are voting to allow
Yeah.
it, that's not what they're voting for,
Right.
right? So we have to make sure whatever regulations we have
Or
But I
or
agree.
reasonable.
You'll,
Yeah.
if you hear from someplace that set up a store here or there, that'll probably give you a pretty good clue.
Yeah.
Like,
and
oh, this is really profitable. Yeah, it's worth this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And then you'll know that,
Yeah.
or whatever, or not.
There's a lot of people in Maine that are in the cannabis industry now, so they have their own lobbyist groups and trade organizations. And you know, and Ellsworth opting in, I think will be a relatively, you know, big deal as far as it would be the biggest municipality down East Maine, you know, the service center, opting in. I think a lot of people are gonna see that as.
And there's a big market.
opportunity. There's a big market, and you got
And
Acadia traffic going right through here.
Exactly.
3 million visitors every summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Some of them might like weed.
yeah, you know,
Hard to say, but
I'm willing to bet a lot of them probably do.
yeah.
The clientele for the island is usually.
I mean, is there a store in
pretty weed.
Southwest have a store?
Southwest has a store.
They're the only one in
Oxford.
Hancock County or just Bucks?
Or it has one.
Brewer, right, so
Yeah,
people, or Bangor, so people, but it's not off, it's not right
But there's
on 1A. Like, this would be the
two
first,
in Hancock County.
yeah, this would be the first, as far as I'm aware, because, yes, because if you get off 395, right, you're actually basically into Holden.
Yeah.
And then, there's nothing, there's no municipality between there and here that's
Right.
permitted adult use. There's some medical, but you have to have a card to do medical. So this will be the first municipality getting off the highway coming to Acadia
Right.
that has adult use. And again, right, if you have it in the, you know, the mall near the Hannaford's, right, like, people are gonna stop and I'm gonna go get my groceries and I'm gonna go get my cannabis, right? You can hit LLB and, you know, it's
If,
Good day.
a good day. Your vacation's off to a good start.
well, I just always think of it like, in my years of practicing as a physician, alcohol has ruined more lives than marijuana has, in what I've seen. And yet I don't think it's like, I don't like promote it. I don't think it's like for your health. It's just like a less dangerous way to have fun. And so personally, I'm all for like, yeah, make them pay a permitting fee, like, yeah, make them make the buildings nice. I'm down with all of that, but then I would also like to do that for all the liquor stores. So is there a way to then, if you come up with this whole, I'm actually asking you this question, if we come up with all these rules, can we make the same rules for places that sell alcohol? And is there a reason we can't? And so why don't we?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the fee part of it, I mean, there's a wide range of fees and some municipalities really tuck it to them, which. I
For
agree-
marijuana or for?
For marijuana.
Yeah.
Which. Really, I kind of have the same attitude as you do, that, you know, that I think, in my experience, you know, alcohol has created more problems than marijuana. And, okay. Does it, but it's marijuana. So does that mean you charge that retail location a $10,000 licensing fee? Which I think in some municipalities, it's as high as $10,000.
Maybe even higher,
Now, how much do we charge for businesses,
$35.
you know, for alcohol?
Just, it's the same business license fee as every
Yeah.
other business.
So. You know,
Sorry, I
granted,
have to
you
be on
know,
alcohol. I realize that was probably just.
No, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, people may look at it as, you know, a source of income, but, okay, in my mind, okay, let's be fair, you know, if it's only $35 for a big box store that sells, you know, a couple $1 million worth of alcohol
Yeah, well,
a year.
I think the difference in part is that
That's a
The-
cultural difference.
Yeah.
it's cultural difference, but also tax. Because I know there is a state tax, but like, right, there's no, I guess, municipalities don't have a retail tax on anything, right?
No.
Well, the state doesn't allow it. But so it's a way of, I think these are all questions that, should be entertained, but it's new, it's regulated in a certain way. In theory, the licensing fees are only supposed to cover the city's administrative burden. So it's not supposed to be a way to just charge them as much as you want. It's meant to offset, the cost of code enforcement, regulation, all, enacting ordinances, things of that nature. I think some municipalities have, probably gone above and beyond that, and it's a matter of, someone could maybe challenge that in court, but, I think it's probably finding the balance of making sure it's not so onerous, that no one's gonna come in, but at the same time, it's a new thing for the city, so we don't quite know what it will take to regulate it, those concerns, so. I think looking at our similar municipalities, similar size, what do they do? We'll have that kind of good conversation about it. I keep thinking of Brewer, because they're the closest one, and they're similar size, they're bigger than Ellsworth, but similar size. I think Brewer and Bangor are probably the ones we want to look to.
I mean, when the original 8 medical marijuana places opened, and one opened in Ellsworth, it was basically, the state had their regulations and that's it.
Yeah.
Ellsworth, you're not allowed to pass any other regulations, basically. Now, obviously, that was years ago, and now this is different, but it's like, okay, you can have some state laws and some Ellsworth laws, but, do they mix, do they conflict?
Yeah, so the law.
Does the state can allow, if Ellsworth wants to do one particular type of enforcement, does the state say, oh, yeah, you can do that, or does the state say, you can't?
For the most part, the way it works is the state's guidelines and regulations are like the floor. And we can't be less stringent than them, but if we wanted to, we could be more stringent. As far as setbacks and, again, we can limit how many businesses there are. We can say you have to be 3,000 feet off a main road, like there's ways you can do it. Again, it's just because you can doesn't mean you want to. But, and I think like odor control is a big one, but the thing is the state every year, these regulations are being changed.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot of, again, it's new, right? So people are learning as they go.
But they have a pretty big lobby.
It's very big, especially the medical one. They have, and influential, but, again, I think because now that these businesses have been operating for a few years and we're kind of getting that feedback, it seems to me that, the Office of Cannabis Policy and that they've got more enforcement now too. That's a new thing. They've got stronger enforcement and folks there's more people that know how this all works in the state, so.
And maybe, you talk about the odor and maybe where they're just gonna be retail shops and not gonna be really manufacturing anything there. You may not have an odor, and maybe the industry has changed a little bit, but I know kind of when retail first started, I'd be driving along, it's like, whoa, geez, there's a marijuana store, closed. I mean, you could smell it. I mean,
Yeah.
just about hit you in the face.
Well,
But,
medical.
like now, Main Organic Therapy, whenever I go up there to the AT&T, it's like, you don't smell that.
No, yeah, the retail stores, it's just the
Because
final
everything's packaged,
product, so
yeah.
I think the smell is the cultivation and maybe I would imagine the manufacturing. Those are, we have a bunch of plants in a
Well,
space.
and people will assume, and I don't know if this is true or not, that if there are 3 stores here, 5 stores here, people will be out buying it and out smoking it, and you will smell it. not from the store itself.
No, just
Yeah.
for people, but I can walk down Main Street about 50% of the time, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, maybe not 50% of the time, but it's not, yeah, I mean, but right now, everyone in Ellsworth, an adult is allowed to have it, you know,
Yeah.
is allowed to grow it themselves and can have a medical card and get it from, you know, the dispensary or the store, so it's not as if it's not here already.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think retail stores are gonna increase the percentage of people, you know,
Using.
using it.
Yeah, no, and
If somebody wants it, they're gonna find it.
yeah, and I think again, for me, the important thing is not having it in your schools, you know, not having it in your churches or other places that would, you know, either take offense to it or not want it there. Having it in a kind of controlled commercial environment already, you know, and, you know, now we have a police station over there, so, you know, it's like if you're really, it's, I think, but it can be, you've seen it, other communities have done it, so if it passes, we can successfully have these stores and it will be, well, you know, new business, jobs, you know, tax, you know, like, improve, you know, these are improving commercial spaces, which improves, you know, increases the property valuation, which increases tax revenue. Yeah, more people stopping in Ellsworth to shop on their way to Acadia. Apparently, you know, maybe they have the munchies and Cheeto sales go up.
And they can plug in their electric vehicles.
They can plug in their electric vehicles, they
It's
can
hard to find
frequent
them.
one of our many excellent downtown businesses like Fogtown. And, you know, and it's, yeah, I mean, I look at it as, it's here, it's, you know, Ellsworth might as well take advantage of, you know, having these businesses as part of our commercial.
Economic milieu.
Exactly. But it's only if people want it.
It'll be very interesting. I'm just very curious.
Yeah.
I'm glad you figured out to do it this way rather than us voting on it.
Yeah, we didn't. We just don't know.
No.
It's the will of the people.
Does Ellsworth American have any polling on cannabis in Ellsworth?
I
Yeah, okay. Well,
have no
we're
idea.
going into it
Yeah.
blind.
You're as curious as the rest of us.
Yeah.
And a good thing about doing this election, it should be a huge
Well,
turnout.
that's why we talk about it too, like if you're gonna, if
Yeah.
any
Yeah,
election,
this is the year to
this is
do
the
it.
year to do it. We'll have, yeah, maximum turnout.
Anybody joining us?
I do have a question though. You mentioned like the moratorium, like the 6 months, that's like, is that theoretical or that's like how you implement
That's what we're,
regulation?
well, not always, right? So a moratorium should only be invoked when the municipality's current regulations aren't sufficient to regulate a use. So you see it invoked in many scenarios, but here it makes a lot of sense, right? Because we vote to, it's an allowed use, but we don't have any ordinances actually regulating the use. So, but someone could say, hey, you approved it, like, I wanna build it right over here, give me a permit. The moratorium just says, hey, we're not gonna issue any permits until we have the ordinance in place and the regulations in place. So when people do come to, if it passes and they come to operate these businesses, we have the systems in place to successfully and safely regulate them.
Matt suggested the 6-month period, that would be enough time for him to.
Well, that's a standard, so more under Maine law,
Okay.
moratorium is 180 days. And then it can be extended if need be.
And I'm sorry, that's part of the referendum question?
It's
Is the
not,
moratorium in
it's
there?
not. The referendum question was designed to be very
Will
simple.
you guys have to vote on that right off the bat then?
As we
Yeah.
accept the election results.
Yeah, we kind of
Yeah,
together, we accept the results and.
Yeah.
enact this
us
one.
guys then,
Us guys?
because I'll be there for that
Still-
part.
Exactly, yeah, you can enact your moratorium, they're really fun. So yeah, so that's how it would work, and then, hopefully, and I would imagine we can get it done within 6 months. And if we have it done in 3 months, we could then lift the moratorium, we have the authority to lift the moratorium.
Not to step on Matt's toes with this, but we have a table of uses in our zoning ordinance that allows certain things in different zones. And if the council if it passes and the council votes on to accept it, we then would allow cannabis stores in the city, but we don't actually allow them on the table of uses anywhere, so it gets to be a headache on
Well,
how
then,
it works and
yeah,
everything, yeah.
then you would look at it,
Yeah,
what's
So
it?
that's why the moratorium
Yeah.
is to allow us time
To make ourselves.
figure out
match.
where they're gonna be and put it into the ordinance form, not just Wild West. But they could go about the school at that point, because they're allowed, but, well, maybe, because they're not actually allowed on the table of uses anywhere, so that's why it gets to be a headache for
And I think
staff.
Yeah, if those, the ordinances were developed, I think probably you'd have to do a citywide mailing.
Yes, there would be a city one, and
So,
Matt's kind of, again, not to step on his toes, but he's kind of, he wants to bundle some of these together so we can do multiple things in
Yeah.
one mailing, potentially to save a little money.
How about saving money here?
It's so
The,
fiscally responsible.
It's
isn't it?
trying to be.
The OCP, and as far as I know, this has always come through these grants, but they will reimburse cities for
Oh,
all
that's right, yeah,
expenses
yeah.
up to $20,000.
Yeah.
Staff time, mailings, all.
yeah, well, that'd be a good idea, because those mailings are expensive. Every time Matt does a mailing, it's like $2,000 or
2,000,
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not cheap.
yeah, no, there'll be a lot of process.
Yeah.
And, we'll want public input. You know, you know, again, the whole reason we're doing this by popular vote is we want, if it is approved, we want to show that the community wants this or is okay with it, get by.
Anything else?
More from the public?
Guess we can call it a wrap, but
All right.
Was this a joint committee meeting?
Joint committee.
I've been calling it the joint commission the whole time. Ask me this, when's that joint commission meeting? What?
It's not the official.
Yeah.
I guess this will go up on the internets.
Did they hear anything? No, it's not microphone.
Microphone.
Oh, okay, good.
We're good, I'll stop
Big
recording.
one.
yes, I think we're good.
Okay.
Good night, I can go to Bogtown for my book club.